I'm being shielded by not 2 bodyguards, but 2 cars. The Volkswagen T-Roc with a better engine and the Suzuki Ignis, which I had a preview of a while ago. But anyway, the thing is, this car, we'll test this one first, but then the video for the Volkswagen will come soon. But this one costs 32,000 euros with this equipment level, while this one is fully equipped and costs 14,000, yes, 14,000 euros, less than half this one. You might say that it looks a bit like a toy and it's very small, but it might surprise you. Not only that, this one has all-wheel drive and this one doesn't. Let's find out if this one is really such a toy.
It might look like it at first. It's very small and far less aggressive looking than most other cars. People will tend to underestimate it. Especially the rear polarizes opinions. Some like it, and some are wondering what might have gone wrong at the factory. Myself, I'm still not sure which side I'm on. I'm definitely sure about one thing though. This car has a heart. Just look at the interior, how nice and uncluttered it is. You still get what the big boys get: navigation, USB and 12-volt plugs, as well as automatic climate control.
So this toy here has a 1.2 liter petrol engine. Not much, but it's actually not bad for this car. More about that later. But if you come over here, in the front, you've got plenty of space. No problems at all. So I thought, this must have so little space in the back, it'll be painful. But wait a second. Not only do the doors open really wide for easy access, if you sit in, look at this. I've got so much space, maybe more than in some of the bigger cars. So wait a second, surely there's no trunk space because of this. It's such a tiny car. But no, I'm wrong again. Look at this. This is a fairly big case. Look at this. I could fit 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 of them in. How did they do it?
If you're at all interested in small cars, go to Suzuki and sit in the back of one of these. I promise you'll be surprised.
The first thing I really noticed when I sat in this car, well, apart from the fact that it's just enormous in the back, I'm not really sure where they're getting that from. It must be something to do with like quantum physics or some trick like that. Anyway, the first thing was really that it's actually really nice here. And what I mean by that is they did a lot with very little. Yes, for 14,000 euros, and this is the fully equipped version, you know, everything is plastic. You can't really expect some plush leather in here. But it's good plastic. It's not horrible or cheap. And it actually looks quite nice because they put black on the top, white on the bottom, and, you know, these little color inserts. It's quite nice. I also like how the infotainment screen looks and the climate controls. They're not something you would say, oh my god, what were they doing here? It's all futuristic and horrible. But no. And they're also mechanically nice to the touch. So very nicely done. And the other thing I noticed after driving it a little bit is just how much of a character it has. Now there's a lot of important things you have to consider when you buy a car. How safe it is, how frugal it is with the fuel, how practical it is, how much space there is, and yada yada yada. But I think if you're not buying a car just to be a tool, just to be a tool from A to B, if you like to drive stuff, then you have to think about character as well. It's quite important. And yes, this car doesn't have a performance mode. It won't, you know, blow your socks off in the corners. but it does have character. And it just makes you smile. It's like a little doggy that runs around with its tiny little engine and barks at everything. But, you know, it's happy and it wants to make you happy. And it does. It's like in the Suzuki Jimny, for example, every ride was an event because it's so loud and everything whirs and, you know, and so on. This isn't. This is a lot more civilized, but at the same time, it's such a tiny little car, it just makes you smile. The fuel consumption is quite interesting in this car because, well, it does much better in a suburban environment than in cities than it does on the motorways. The gearing is quite very short. I think, well, at 130 kilometers per hour, your RPMs are fairly high. I think it's like 3,500 or even more perhaps. And the fuel economy does suffer because of that. In a suburban environment, I got it to around 5 liters per 100 kilometers, which is not fantastic, but it's not bad. Considering it's a small car with a small engine, it could be even better. But anyway, immediately once I got onto a motorway and did the speed limit, well, the engine just has to work so hard with the short gearing that, well, it immediately shot up to 6, even above 6 liters per 100 kilometers. So definitely not a car for motorway cruising. There are, of course, some downsides to having a car with a short wheelbase that is very small as well. And of course, one of them is the quality of the ride. Now, it's fine on these roads, but if you especially go on a concrete slab road, so no asphalt, you will wish you hadn't, because you'll be jumping around so much. I kid you not, I had enough of it after about 10 minutes. It was very, very annoying. I had never experienced bumpiness such as that. And of course, because it is very narrow in a way, every time you will shift the gears, you'll be saying hello to your passenger's arm with your arm. And every time I put the car into reverse, for some reason the gears decide that, well, they don't like each other. And while it does go in reverse, everybody around me looks at me as if, wow, he has never driven a manual before. The thing with the Ignis is that this tiny little engine at the front is quite fine for city driving or suburban driving. I really don't have many complaints about it. But once you get on a highway or a motorway, oh, there's a truck here that I would not be able to overtake. All right, third gear, full power, still full power, 100 kilometers per hour. Almost 6,000 RPM. Oh, here we go, 130 kilometers per hour, and I'm getting out of the way of everyone else. So it can get up to 130 kilometers per hour, okay. It's not sluggish, but you really have to push the engine. And because of the short gearing, well, we're doing 130, which is the speed limit here. Listen. It's a little bit loud. It's not too loud so you couldn't talk to your passengers and, you know, go, hey, can you hear me? But it is quite loud. Let me put it this way, I wouldn't really want to, I don't know, have a grand tour to Paris with this and then back, or a trip across Europe. I would probably have a migraine the size of Europe at the end. So the other thing is, of course, the fuel consumption shoots up because the engine is doing 3,500 RPM at this speed. And of course, if you need extra power, you can, okay, 130, you can put your foot down in fifth, which is the final gear. 135, still foot down, hard. 140. So it takes a while. You do have to shift down, and you really have to punish that engine for being so small. But, you know, it's not really a highway car. It's a city car. It does have another trick up its sleeve, though. Check this out. Not only does it have a couple of interesting buttons here at the bottom, it has an off-road button there, and it also has a hill descent control button, which means that I can be on this hill up here and take my feet off the brakes and off the... Oh, I'll have to put some brakes on here. That's not good. But the system will try to keep the car at around 7 kilometers per hour. Let's try that again. Let's let it do its own thing. It would be nice if you could set it, but of course this is not meant to be a serious off-roader. This is not a Vitara, or more so a Jimny. But here, I mean, there you go. It works. A little scary, but works. And here's of course another proof that the driver is usually the weakest point in a car. So if you do have a hill descent control system, you don't necessarily have to use it just to prove a point. And yeah, it seems like we went a little bit too fast and this came loose. Brilliant. It has to be said though, despite the slight bit of damage there, it did get up this hill, no problems. The hill that the Suzuki Jimny had a few problems when it was snowy and icy. Now granted, this is dry mud more or less now, but still, it's quite nice to know that the car is capable of very mild off-roading, should you desire.
Just be a little more careful than I was. Mea culpa. You can buy the base Ignis for 10,000 euros. If you'd prefer the fully equipped model with all-wheel drive, then you'll be paying 14,000 for the car.